another debacle in the NFL world. The Washington football team. What have you made of the chaos within that organization in regards to the name change, in regards to sponsorship threats, and now in regards to the sexual assault claims and just the general heat that is at the door of Dan Snyder? What have you made of all this?
The jokes write themselves. They do. And, you know, when you look at historically bad franchises, it starts at the top. And, you know, I like to say now there's always a tweet. And Dan Snyder was coming out about 7 years ago, something like that, 2013. He's like, we're never changing the name. Money talks. You know, and it's this climate now where people start pulling that money away. And all of a sudden, he went from we're never going to change the name to now they're the Washington football team. And, like, that's what you came up with? Like, you literally had meetings, and this is $1 billion franchise. And you have access to the greatest consultants and branding and all this stuff under the sun. And literally, this is what you came up with. This is what came out of the meetings. This is what you've been able to, and this is when you start seeing that common sense ain't so common. And the people that you think have these big brains have these peanut-sized brains. How do you have that much money and that much access to all of these different creators across the board? I mean, there are creators everywhere that you can bring in and have a creative jam session. There's no way you could convince me that you had meetings and consulted people and thought process and stayed up late at night and all this other stuff, and the best you can come up with is the Washington football team. That in itself, boom, is the joke right there. But this is why Washington is Washington. But I'll tell you this, if Washington were to call me today and say, we're bringing you in for a workout, we want to put you on our team, I will come back on your show and tell you why the Washington football name is a great name. That's how shallow I am.
Well, I did want to ask you, should with the sexual assault things, I know we live in the cancel culture right now, but those are legitimate issues, like legal issues as well. I don't want to say Snyder should lose the team. I think a jury or his peers should decide that. But should it be viewed more as a Donald Sterling Clippers kind of situation, or do you think it's not that far? And I know the same situation happened to the Mavericks, but it seemed like Mark Cuban was very forthcoming and forthright, and it seems that Snyder's taking that a little bit differently.
The difference between the Sterling situation, that he was actually caught on tape. There was evidence that he was being racist, right? He could not deny the fact that he was being racist. In this situation, while sexual assault is extremely bad, there hasn't been a report that it was actually Dan Snyder. Right?
Or that he knew about it.
Or that he knew about it specifically, yeah. Right? So that's the part when you talk about cancel culture and you making someone sell their team. When you look at Jerry Richardson at the Panthers, that it was evidence that he was involved.
Right.
Donald Sterling, there was evidence that he was involved. So that kind of stuff, if there's evidence that you're the owner of this team and you're involved in these salacious, nasty, vile things, then absolutely you should sell your team. Now, if you're the owner of this team and this stuff is happening underneath you and you may not know, not knowing is not an excuse, then there should be some penalty. But to outright have you sell your team and the person wasn't, or maybe not being involved in it, or there isn't any concrete evidence that you were involved or knowingly knew, then I think that's a fine line when it comes down to making someone sell their team. I think there should be penalty because at the end of the day, you're still responsible. This is still your football team. And the funny thing is, when it comes to that sexual assault, that stuff like that happens in the office, they ain't the only one. It's a lot of them. It's a lot of that. The whole sexual assault thing, the whole boys club thing, boys will be boys, and the whole, like you're talking to that racial tension stuff. I always look at a lot of these owners across the league. How old are they?
At least 60.
At least, if not 65, 70, 75. So what era did they actually grow up in? And I'm not saying all of them. I'm saying what era did they grow up in? They grew up in that area where racism was at a really, 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 really overtly high rate.
60s, 70s.
Right? And then if they come from a family of wealth, which a lot of them have, then their parents were coming up in the 40s and 50s, and that's taught to a lot of them. And they learn how to navigate through it, and they understand, like Donald Sterling. And Donald Sterling understood, as much as he didn't like black people or want to be around black people, his franchise couldn't run without him. So it was like, I will sacrifice. I don't like them, but I know I can't actually compete in the NBA with a team full of white players.
Right.
I can't. It's not going to happen. The league's 85% black. And I got a bunch of white players on my team. How can I actually compete against so you got to put those players on your team. And so they learn how to maneuver and navigate through it. But all of that stuff, man, Snyder, Richardson, Sterling, they ain't the only ones.
Well, I guess the ultimate irony, too, was Sterling was, when he was doing the racist rant, he was talking to an Afro-Latino woman, if I'm not mistaken. His mistress was an Afro-Latino.
Right, yeah. But when Donald Sterling, Donald Sterling,
yeah.
She was, it's like, okay. But they ain't the only one. That whole boys will be boys club, that's rampant through all sports, not just the NFL. Right. Trust me, if you had some anonymous conversation with a lot of the women that worked in these high profile places, you hear a lot of the same stories.